Yeah, totally. Everybody hear me okay? Loud and clear? Things are coming through? All right, what's up, Boston? Good to see all y'all. Happy Monday morning. Happy you guys are here making it happen, kicking it off early with us. Look at us, hanging out. Happy to be here. My name is Ben Maitland-Lewis. I'll be moderating today's session. I'm a lifelong entrepreneur, guys. A lot of you guys know me from the city here. Been here since on and off since 2002. Just founding companies for the last 22 years. I've had 2 VC-backed exits. I've had a merger, a bunch of fires and failures and things like that, experiments and cool little things like that. I went through Y Combinator, one of the co-founders of the Tech Jam, the Tech Co Party. And I'm just an evangelist to founders all over the place. I love what I do and I love this city and I'm here by choice. And I'm also in the Hingham Militia, super random. But anyway, I'm now the founder in residence at WeFunder. And what I do there is I help founders and startups raise capital for their companies from their customers and community. That's been really cool, really rewarding for me as a founder myself. And we did almost $500 million investment volume last year and on track to do the same, if not more, this year. And so here I am, happy to moderate with these incredibly impressive and super exciting individuals on this panel that you're going to hear from now. So take it away. Let's get some introductions going. Let's start with Sam.
All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Sam Crum. I'm with a company called Greentown Labs. We are the largest climate technology-focused startup incubator here in North America, headquartered over in Somerville, Massachusetts, but we also have an office down in Houston, Texas. And I'm their membership growth manager, so helping recruit new startups to come and join our community here.
What? We're going to popcorn it over to Carole.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me today in this session. My name is Carole Sioufi. I'm the market research analyst at Branchfood. We're a launchpad for food innovation. We help food businesses, so food startups and established companies grow. We do this through industry connections, educational seminars and curated events, investment opportunities, and strategic advice. And we have a shared workspace here in downtown Boston, as well as in Providence, Rhode Island, in collaboration with the Cambridge Innovation Center. And I look forward to the conversation with you all.
Quick question. Is it on brand that you guys have an office on Milk Street and you deal with food? Is that like a thing? Did you do that on purpose? Because it's pretty good. All right. Maybe. To be told. Well, all right. Moving it on. Joyce, take us home.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us so early today. I am one of the co-founders at MassRobotics. I am the chief of operations here, and we're an independent nonprofit organization that helps grow robotic startups companies and really growing robotics worldwide. And that is through connections with academia, early stage startups, helping grow larger robotics companies, connecting them with customers, VCs, talent, and the likes, and I'll be explaining our model a little bit more later.
Boom. So everybody tuning in here live Monday morning, you guys are seeing that we have a really great panel in store for you guys today. I'm super excited because we're covering this trifecta of awesomeness here in the city. You know, we have climate tech, we have food, we have robotics, and yes, they do also all work together in harmony. But so today, what we're going to be doing now and next is actually we're going to be going through each individual is going to be telling a little bit about what they do. They're going to have 6 minutes to go through this, and then we're going to have 5 minutes of Q&A. If you have any questions as these individuals are going along and talking about their business, please do drop them in the Q&A, and I will do my best to make sure to moderate that really well in real time. And then afterwards, we will actually have a group panel discussion for about 20, 25 minutes, and we can get deeper into certain subjects and things like that. So happy Monday. I hope you're excited. You got a nice hot cup of coffee to hang out and tickle the tentacles of intellectual curiosity. We're going to kick off the first session here with Sam Crum. Kick it off, homie. You got 6 minutes.
Super. All right. Let's get the screen share going. Is this coming okay? See the slides?
No slides yet, my man.
No.
But we're gonna keep looking in anticipation. Anticipation. Excited anticipation. Here we go. You know, we're all doing this live here for the first time, actually using GoldCat. So if it does work for everybody, which it is now, it's a testament to their user interface. So hey, nice work, GoldCat. All right, carry on, Sam.
Here we are. All right. So good morning, everybody. Focus of my presentation this morning is really going to be on the climate technology ecosystem and why it is especially strong here in the Boston area. So starting off with just a little bit of framing on sort of like what is driving this industry and its rapid growth. It is because this is such a time crunch of a problem that we are trying to address climate change before the worst effects really come to be. And many of the experts anticipate that was 2030. My humble opinion, we probably need to make significant strides sooner than that. And so that has really driven sort of urgency around, developing solutions and really decarbonizing all aspects of our economy here. And so in comes climate tech. And I think I'll first start off by explaining how we define what climate technology is. So these are technologies that are somehow either mitigating greenhouse gas emissions or building resilience against the effects of climate change. But with such a wide, robust problem like climate change, it really, integrates into all aspects of our life. So we at Greentown Labs think of sort of 6 major sectors and falling into the climate tech space. And that could be electricity, agriculture, buildings, transportation, manufacturing, and then also the adaptation and resilience aspects, recognizing that, climate change is here, it's having effects on our communities today, and we really need to be able to respond to that and make it through. And we've seen a massive uptick in activity in the climate tech ecosystem in just the last couple of years. I think the last 2 especially, just an incredible rise in investment in the space, as well as the number of companies that are being founded. And for me, that's really heartening to see. These are, entrepreneurs that are gritting their teeth and rising to the challenge and really trying to, build solutions that are going to address such a sort of like large existential problem. Boston is an incredibly great place to build a climate tech industry. Climate tech company. And that is really because of the wide swath of sort of support resources and the ecosystem that surrounds these companies. Ultimately, a climate tech startup, like they are relying on a lot of, the folks around them. Could be corporate partners that they would use to test and deploy their technology in the world. Universities, they are producing a lot of these companies as far as the IP. But Boston, with all of the sort of intellectual capital and the talent that exists in this ecosystem, really strong for these young companies to hire amazing people to come in and join. You need capital, you need investors, and Boston is a great hub for that. There are also lots of startup support organizations, a couple of which are here on the panel today, but really key as far as helping develop these ideas from that concept stage all the way up to sort of execution and scale deployment there. And there's also a state government with organizations like the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center that are really designed to help support these various aspects. And Boston is one of the top hubs for climate tech today. So when you think about founding a climate tech startup, how do you get started in this space? It's a really daunting challenge, both because of sort of the size of the problem that you're trying to address, but also because so often climate technologies, these are, sort of long to develop, often hardware components, and they just require a lot of sort of capital and time invested up front. And it's that patient capital that's going to be able to, sort of wait for them to hit that next technology milestone and scale up before any VCs really start seeing returns in that space. So if you were considering, starting a company here, I think the first thing that I would recommend for you is that you really find that community of like-minded people where you can ask questions and get advice from people who have been through this journey in the past and can maybe help steer you in the right direction early on. So you are making sure that you are sort of being efficient with your time and focusing on a problem or a solution initially that the market really wants. And so going to university pitch competitions, accelerator programs like Mass Challenge or Clean Tech Open, incubators like Greentown Labs. These can be a great place to meet those innovators at various stages in their life cycle and really sort of get that peer-driven advice from other folks. And we at Greentown, we always see that the community is the #1 thing that our companies get out of being a member of our community here. It's that opportunity to talk to that other CEO, talk about like IP or hiring or whatever those challenges that keep CEOs up at night. But really, we're trying to drive these connections all across these companies. And so we do lots of meetup groups for the engineers, the business development folks, software developers, really all across that stage. And as an incubator, for anybody who's not familiar with that term, we are really just trying to put the resources, the connections, and the community at the fingertips of these founders that they need to develop their technologies, and feel that like some of these things would be time consuming and capital intensive to establish themselves, like a lab space or a machine shop or connections to investors. We really bring all of that together and allow each company that's with our community here to handpick and really curate their experience, taking advantage of the various resources that are most relevant to them there. So highly recommend checking out some of these startup support organizations in the ecosystem. There's lots of really great ones here in Boston. And just as far as a couple of the movers and shakers to keep an eye on, I will admit that I am very biased. All of the companies that you see up here on the screen, these are Greentown Labs members right here. But these are a couple companies that are based here in Boston that are doing really well. They're growing fast, starting to get out of that sort of like prototype lab stage and really starting to think about their pilot deployments and getting their technology out to first customers. So take a look, see if any of them are hiring. And, you know, if you are a founder, like these are some of the companies that I would recommend really keeping track of and trying to mimic however you can. So if you want to learn more about what's going on in the climate tech space, please come join us here at Greentown. We host a number of events throughout the fall. Really big one coming up on November 3rd. It's our Climate Tech Summit. If you're going to go to any event this year, I would say that's the one that you should be at. But, you know, lots of different activities on our website and our newsletter. So please get in touch and come and join the climate tech movement. Thanks all.
Nice, Sam. Great work, buddy. That was awesome. And yeah, thanks so much for putting together such like an organized deck and everything else. That was great. Awesome. Well, we don't have any like specific Q&A questions yet, but I got a couple to kick things off. And again, those that are tuning in and those who just joined us and everything else, hi, welcome. Thank you for being with us on a Monday morning or evening. I've seen some people in different time zones, so thank you for being here. If you have any questions for our speakers, please drop them in the Q&A section, all right? They actually have a really cool feature called video Q&A where you can drop a video in there. Personally, I haven't seen or used it yet. That would be kind of cool just to kind of click approve and have a video fly up. But either way, if you have questions for our speakers, please drop it in there. Sam, my man, you've been at Greentown for a while. By the way, really cool founding story too. It was all the guys out of MIT. They came out of MIT. Obviously, they needed lab space. This is back in 2011. I mean, lab space in itself is such a huge need for so many different people. We didn't really have a lot of like flex labs and all these other things back in the day. So these guys found a spot and then obviously brought in a couple of their other buddies. And then all of a sudden the word spread and more of their like, buddies came and it became a community overnight. And it was really, really cool to see how that kind of all happened, because at the end of the day, when you bring really smart people in a room together, magic's going to happen either way. And you know, whether or not they were there for their own reasons, and maybe somebody had this, piece of equipment, another person with that piece of equipment, they all kind of work together. At the end of the day, that sort of sharing of ideas and like neurons that are bouncing off the walls and stuff like that really do lead to both innovation, connection sharing, stronger community, stronger sense of purpose, and just overall confidence for founders. A lot of times people don't talk about how founders are pretty alone up there, and sometimes they're alone in their thoughts, and being able to sort of like share that, with others is very, very important at the same stage to keep going, keep motivated, keep on target, keep that North Star. So Sam, the question I have for you, man, is because you've been instrumental at bringing in, like basically engaging with founders and bringing in really great founders to your community for a long time and ultimately creating the community. So I would love to hear from you, like, what are some of the most exciting startups that you're seeing right now? And obviously they're all exciting because they're all tackling a challenge that we all care deeply about. But when you kind of kick back and you're like, whoa, like that is rad. I never thought about that approach or something. Like, are there some companies that stick out to you? And I'd love to hear those.
Yeah, so the companies that get me really excited are the ones that are having potential to decarbonize like full percentage points off of global greenhouse gas emissions. And a lot of times those are those really hard to abate industries, cement, steel, air transportation.
Yeah.
And so companies that are, really poised to drastically change how sort of those building blocks work are the ones that get me, really excited about what's going on here. So one that comes to mind here at Greentown Labs, we have a company called Sublime Systems. They are working to decarbonize how cement is made. Cement accounts for about 8% of global greenhouse gas emissions, and they are poised to drastically cut that. I don't know exactly the percentage, but it's in the 70 to 90% range. So really meaningful work, and it's happening at that early stage of the production of that material that then gets used in so many different things that we build here.
Fascinating. Yeah, I remember seeing a company recently, I don't remember the name, but they were leveraging basically recycled plastic materials to create like some type of a concrete alternative and things like that. And it's just, now also the technologies come so much further from even 2011, when the guys who started Greentown, like, what they had at their disposal. So we do have a question in the Q&A. So Joseph, I want to say thank you for that. And this is actually really relevant for a lot of people. So I'm excited that he did it. Let me hit share and see if that works. If not, here we go. Bam. This is, hey, if you're beyond the accelerator stage but need a capital raise, can Greentown help or connect with resources for capital raise?
We sure do. Yes. So we have a dedicated investor program here at Greentown that's really designed to help our founders raise that next round of capital. And so most of our companies, when they come to Greentown, they're at that seed stage of development. And so thinking about raising that Series A or Series B, we've built up this big network of over 1,500 investors that we work closely with, and really just trying to augment the existing networks of these companies. And so a couple of the ways that we do that, we send out a deal flow digest document to the investor community, spotlighting startups that are actively fundraising. We also organize events like pitch days, showcasing events, even sort of like smaller investor office hours where a founder can just get together one-on-one, maybe sort of have that casual conversation. And we have an internal group here called our fundraising forum as well, opportunity for CEOs to practice their pitch in front of other startup entrepreneurs and get that peer-driven feedback from folks who have just closed capital themselves. So I think just being around those people that can make suggestions on your approach and who to talk to, and then the Greentown Investor Program that's really helping sort of like increase your visibility and maybe the meetings that you can set, really just helping get that started. Once we've made that connection, though, we go hands off and we really let the founder steer the relationship from there.
Totally. You have to. It's their destiny, man. They got to make it happen. You can just show them the way. And let me know if you need some help, man. I love working with founders. I'm there. All right, rock and roll. Sam, thank you very much. We got to keep cruising. For those in the Q&A, though, like definitely I encourage you just to check out the Greentown Labs website. It has a ton of great information there, and you'll be able to contact and connect with Sam and everybody else in the organization right through there. You learn more about it and everything else and go from there. And then maybe we'll get deeper into a few other things in the end panel, because we're not yet there, but we're kind of conducting this like one, and that's fun. So, all right, on to the next greatest adventure. Carole, I would love to bring you up now so you can chat about all of the great things that you're doing with Branchfood and enlighten our global audience. Kick it over to you.
Thank you, Ben. Can you all see my screen?
Sure can. Science.
Well, thank you all for joining us in this session today. I'd like to begin by giving a brief overview of Boston's unique food ecosystem. And Sam touched upon some of the characteristics that make the Boston ecosystem so unique and so prone to advanced innovations that have tremendous impact on different industries. Not a lot of people are aware of the history of food innovation here in Boston, both in terms of food technologies, but also in terms of consumer brands. Boston, the greater Boston area was home to the invention of the first microwave oven, the first candy making machine, flash freezing technology, as well as many of the consumer product brands that I've highlighted here on this slide and that you are probably all familiar with. We also see a lot of leading research and academic institutions that are active in the food innovation space through innovation labs, startup competitions, wet labs, and programs that they put together to support food founders and students within their programs as they launch and develop food businesses. The talent is here. There's a lot of students in STEM and business fields, as well as the large workforce in healthcare, biotech, life sciences, all of which are increasingly relevant to the future of the food industry. And the startup is wide. The startup support is wide. We see a lot of shared workspaces, incubators and accelerators, as well as financial institutions that are here to support these startups, to provide them with a platform to engage with others, be it in the food industry or in adjacent fields, and to get access to the resources that they need in order to successfully launch and develop their startups. Over the past 5 years, we've seen tremendous activity across and innovation across the food supply chain. On the tech side, we're seeing a lot of innovations designed to increase the efficiency of inputs, to conserve natural resources, to optimize farm management, logistics, and supply chain, to create marketplaces for consumers to shop for the products that they seek. On the consumer product side, we've seen the emergence of novel ingredients, the development of functional foods and beverages, plant-based analogs, and we're seeing a lot of traction around personalized nutrition and food security, both of which are extremely important for the future of food. In terms of funding, over $8 billion were raised by startups in the Boston ecosystem across consumer products and tech companies, with many successful exits that you've probably all heard of. What are the drivers behind this high level of activity? Well, first and foremost, we need to feed the growing population, and the industry needs to find a way to sustainably do that. Like Sam mentioned, climate change is real. It is certainly affecting operations across the supply chain, and we're seeing industry stakeholders seeking to advance more sustainable and environmentally friendly practices that they could implement across the supply chain in order to mitigate climate change, but also ensure the continuous production and flow of food from agriculture to consumers. On the consumer side, we're seeing the rise of the conscious consumer, who is increasingly aware of the impact of food on the environment, on the planet, on the communities, and on their own health and wellness and well-being. So they are demanding healthier products that reflect their values and that they feel good about consuming, and the industry is responding. And lastly, I mean, the last 2 weeks have shown us how fragile the supply chain is, be it because of the disruptions caused by the COVID-19 pandemic or the geopolitical conflicts that are happening overseas. So there is a need for greater resiliency across the supply chain in order to enable the food supply chain to be able to absorb these external shocks and maintain the production and supply of food locally. So the ecosystem is very unique and has a strong advantage for early stage founders. There's a high level of activity, but where do you start? We see a lot of founders starting with with their personal experience in food. Maybe they are they have an allergy to a specific ingredient. Maybe they faced a specific personal experience with food, and often a lot of them start there. But also many of them identify gaps in the industry after having worked in the industry or studied some aspects of it. So having an idea is basically the starting point. Conducting market research in order to understand the market, its consumers, what do they need, and what are the existing solutions today is very important. And as you formulate your value proposition in such a highly, I guess, dynamic and rapidly moving industry, be sure to use a framework in order to provide you with a structured and logical way to further refine your value proposition, iterate as you go, and as you continuously learn about the market. try not to do it alone. And if you cannot find a co-founder, find mentors and advisors. Network as much as you can. Tap into the community, engage with the community, attend events such as Startup Boston Week, but also don't be shy. Put yourself out there and share your ideas with others. You're going to need at some point some type of funding, and here are some of the criteria or metrics that investors look for as they seek to invest or evaluate food startups. If you're on the tech side, having a competitive advantage, which is reflected in a strong IP or strategic relationships with industry stakeholders, is very important. Showcasing or being able to demonstrate a growing user base, perhaps some successful pilots or trials and paying customers also helps. Being fully knowledgeable of your acquisition costs, your conversion and retention rates, the sustainability of your business model and how scalable it is also very important for investors. And if you're on the consumer product side, having a trade secret, something that protects your product and prevents others from replicating it, demonstrating some traction in the market, even if it's little traction, and having a strong brand recognition or customer testimonials definitely helps. And when it comes to the finances of your business, demonstrating a strong knowledge of your cash flow and your cost of goods sold, because you are moving inventory and ingredients. And so you really need to be acing that in order to showcase or to showcase that you have a credible business. And most importantly, making sure that your product can grow over the next few years and can lift the overall category in which your product is. And of course, having a team of founders who are passionate, who are driven, who are credible and coachable, and who can rally around them a board of advisors with extensive experience in the industry definitely helps. At Branchfood, we are very excited about the future of the industry, and we think it's a great time to enter the food industry. There's a lot of opportunities for growth, and if you seek to leverage the momentum that exists here in Boston to tap into this rich ecosystem and to explore the resources that exist around us, I highly encourage you to do that. And I highly encourage you to take a look at some of the companies highlighted here. They have all succeeded in their category or in advancing revolutionary technology that is transforming the food industry for generations to come. And of course, reach out. We're happy to help you further develop your idea and provide you with opportunities to tap into the food community.
Nice. Thank you, Carole. I really appreciate you sharing that. Fascinating stuff in there. I mean, honestly, just like coming off of what Sam was saying too, it's so exciting to see the amount of structure and resources and community that have been built up around founders. That didn't have that, you know, so it's really and it's working. In my fridge right now.
Ben, I'm sorry to interrupt. You're breaking up. Joyce and Sam, can you hear Ben? Okay. You're still breaking up.
I think we've lost Ben momentarily. Carole, it looks like we've got a question here that I can share. Let's see, it's hopefully going to pop up here. So with regard to your presentation, and I think there's a question here around the trending for startups within agricultural and food industry. Can you share your thoughts with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I mentioned, it's a very dynamic time for the food industry with many challenges that could be translated into opportunities for innovation. And we're seeing a blurring of the lines between the different verticals across the supply chain. So there's a great need for collaboration and for closing the gap between upstream innovations and downstream innovations, and providing stakeholders at both ends of the supply chain with a platform to discuss the challenges that they face, the novel technologies that exist, and how can they both leverage them in a way that makes sense to the market, but also to the future, to the consumers, and to the future of the industry. So when we look at food innovation today, it's really hard to differentiate to separate agriculture from food, because they're all intertwined. Like when you create novel, or you leverage gene editing to create a novel type of berries, for example, it's important to be sure that there's a market for it and that consumers can benefit from this novel type of produce, and vice versa. What do consumers seek, and how can the industry at the upstream level provide them with these products that are often tech-enabled for them to consume. So I hope that answers the question.
Excellent, very helpful. We'll give Ben another try on the audio. Let's see. Oh, I can't hear you. I think now you're on mute. Well, Joyce, why don't we go ahead and turn it over to you? Love to hear your thoughts, and we'll let you take it away. Excellent. And we can see your slides too.
Great. Okay, so I'll share with you a little bit about MassRobotics and how we support the robotics ecosystem, very similar to what Greentown is doing and what Branchfood is doing. It's except we're focused on robotics. And the way we define that is something that senses the environment, senses the area around them, computes, and then actuates, does something about the input that it's getting. And so I want to make sure this is advancing. Yeah, okay. So our mission is to really enable and grow the next generation of robotics startups. And so we do that in many ways, but the three we like to, what we call our pillars, are we advocate by going out to industries that could adopt robotics, and we kind of help grow robotics worldwide in that way. We escalate. So again, similar to Greentown and Branch, we help support these innovators with all of the resources they need. And part of that is our space that we have here in the Seaport, where we have prototyping tools and machine shop. And then we have access to many robot platforms. So a lot of times robotics companies are not building a robot, but they're building a piece of a robot or a functionality for that robot. And so they need the resources as far as the autonomous mobile robot or an arm to test their grippers on. So we have all of those resources here at MassRobotics. And then we educate. So educating the community, educating our startups in, again, similar to the other two, bringing in investors, bringing in our CEO peer groups to kind of educate each other on things that they've done that work, and then STEM education. Because we are a nonprofit, we have a STEM education piece. And so where our model fits is that we're not really an incubator or accelerator. Those are for early ideation type companies. And so those are great for places like a Greentown or a Techstars, where they really have a very focused accelerator program that's X amount of weeks and heavy mentors. We're kind of like that next stage. We're what we call an escalator. So we take companies that have this idea, but really already have a prototype or are working on their prototype, and help escalate them to the next phase, where we're helping them find talent, we're helping them find manufacturing. And so we're helping them through that, I'd say, one of the valleys of death, right? Because there are many along the travels of a startup. So that one where they have the resources they need to actually build and prototype and reiterate many times. So our timeline for being in our space is not 4 6 weeks. we have a company that's been here for 5 years since we've opened. So hardware is hard and it really takes a long time. And so being around other innovators, as you said, Sam, really that exchange of ideas, being with like-minded people is really what makes Boston so strong. We have so many of these innovation kind of ecosystems wrapped in a bubble in our spaces. And so this is just a little slide to show by the numbers. There are over 400 robotics companies in the Boston area. We currently host about 60 here. They're really not just from Boston, though. They're from around the globe. So we have companies from Israel and Spain and Switzerland and as far as Singapore who access our network and ecosystem. We've had 8 really successful spin-outs, we call them. 4 were acquisitions, and the others were raising and still raising. And we have about 50,000 square feet here. We've been in operations for about 5 years. And so, what makes Boston and the Boston ecosystem so strong around robotics, similar to the other, I'll say escalators, is our critical mass of universities. We really have the highest intellectual group than anywhere in the country, really the highest density of universities than anywhere in the country. And that really is substantial in all areas of tech, not just robotics, not just clean tech, not just food, but really all areas of tech. And so, also the Boston, I'd say, entrepreneurial spirit, right? We were named, I think, many years in a row, the top spot for entrepreneurs. And I think it's also because we have, we're the third in VC capital being raised, right? There's just so many mentors out there who just want to help. We all want to help each other. And I feel like we're not competitive with each other. We're all just trying to help those entrepreneurs get through that hump, because a lot of us have been there and done that, and we just want to give back. And that's the kind of the spirit of Boston. So Boston robotics companies have raised about 1.2 billion last year alone. So I haven't been tracking and gotten up to speed on this year's, but that's substantial. And the robotics market is expected to be at a 210 billion by 2015. That also is very substantial. And the pandemic just showed us that robotics can actually help the 2 industries we just spoke about, right? And so what are the big market trends and who is being disrupted by robotics? Every industry, really every industry. And I'd say really the top couple are manufacturing, and how do we bring back onshore products and the development of products. Robotics can really help with that, with collaborative robots, new gripping systems, and logistics and warehousing is another crazy area of explosion, right? We saw that during the pandemic, everybody's ordering online. Well, how do you get your goods faster? Robots have to help in the back end. We just don't have the workforce to really to deliver these products. And so let's talk a little bit about the enabling trends that are really helping push robotics forward more quickly now than ever. One, of course, the cost of computing is down, right? There's cloud services, and cloud services really helps offboard a lot of the expensive equipment and GPUs that had to be on the robots. Now that a lot of that computation can be in the cloud. There's new, less expensive, high fidelity sensors that are coming out. There's the robot operating system, ROS, which really helps enable companies to easily use sensors and understand the inputs they're getting with very simple APIs. And then there's robots as a service. So now if you want to use a robot, you don't have to buy the robot and figure out how to use it. You can buy it as a service where the robot will be on site, but you'll have a tech, or you'll be just getting the data from the robot. And that's what you're using to help make your decisions. I have lots of examples of that. So moving forward, how do I get into the robotics ecosystem? How do I hook up with one of these companies? Engineers are the #1 thing that robotics companies are looking for. Every robotics company I know, everyone is hiring. And it's anything from an engineer, and then as they grow, they need pretty much everything that any market would need, right? like with clean tech and food tech, they're going to need marketing, they're going to need finance, they're going to need sales, HR. So they're really, these ecosystems are kind of growing together. And I think it's really easy to transfer your knowledge from one to another as far as the all disciplines needed. And so one way to learn it a little bit more, we have our largest event coming up in the Seaport in a couple of weeks. It's called the Robot Block Party. We'll probably have about 40 robotics companies there. They're hiring, they're showing off their tech. And this is everything from walking, crawling, flying, swimming, you name it. Those robots will be at this show. So easy to get in touch with us and check out our website. We list all our startups that are there. We have who's hiring, we have upcoming events and all that. So that's it for me, Ben. Are you back online?
Thanks, Joyce. I should be. Can you guys hear me? Oh my gosh. If anybody knows me, you know that like I am never muted. So oh my gosh. And I was running around analog, like I can't find it. Anyway, Joyce, thank you for sharing. Again, I really appreciate you. I love everything that you're doing with MassRobotics. Thank you for co-founding such a great organization for our ecosystem and really bringing us forward in that capacity. There's been a lot of exciting developments within robotics and AI and everything else recently too. So I'm sure that you're a wealth of knowledge from just being at the epicenter of that. And also Carole, everybody can still hear me? Carole, cool. I just also want to say thank you for sharing what you shared as well. What I was saying earlier and kind of vamping on is just that, like, especially after hearing now Joyce too, and the three of you guys, is that it's so exciting to see such infrastructure and support and communities built up around founders and for founders. That's something that's, I think, personally relatively new to the space. And as a founder who's bootstrapped a couple companies and just is always like cruising, you know, that is amazing that you guys can help people essentially from like idea to commercialization and provide them with all of the necessary resources along the way. So for anybody tuning in, that is something that if you're interested within these spaces, I encourage you to definitely connect with these people and get involved with them and check out their websites and everything else. And even if you're not operating specifically, you know, within climate tech or robotics or in the food space, doesn't matter, right? Careers are nonlinear, and individuals that come to these sessions and communities and things like that are from all different disciplines. And just because, you know, you're there for one discipline doesn't mean that you're not going to meet an individual from another or another and expand your horizons and reach. If there's anything that I've learned out of my 22 years of building VC-backed companies, it's that network matters. And these days it's very exciting because the pandemic has really made it so that you don't have to be in the local network to really make a network. You can just participate. I'm seeing a lot of people in this call, in this panel session on a Monday morning that are actually tuning in globally. So that is awesome. You guys are already one in that capacity. So get involved, be a part of the ecosystem, and together make the future that we all want to live in. Okay, so now we get to open it up to the panel session, and my mic is still working. Am I right? My mic is still working. Everything's awesome. Okay, rock and roll. So I'll start it off with a quick question from the community. That's a very easy one, and a local one though, is any of you guys going to the opening event tonight? Anybody? We'll see. If not, connect with these guys offline. Everything's kosher. And you know, we'll go from there. So I would like to kick it off, and as I continue to, you know, monitor these Q&As, so feel free to keep floating things in. But I would like to kind of kick it off in the space here and just kind of keep it in the fundraising vibe for a minute, because you guys all touched on funding, which is highly important. Specifically, anything that you guys do, clean tech, climate tech is expensive. You know, bringing food to market and doing all of like the testing and everything else and the production of it is expensive. You know, robotics, AI, expensive. So when it comes to that, like, you know, I guess my question here is like, how is access in the last few years, like how has access to funding changed for companies in each of your spaces? And are you seeing like more or less of it now? And with the sort of interesting market turmoil that we're seeing, have you seen it affect the industry? And lastly, who's winning and why? So I'd like to popcorn this to Carole. Why don't you kick us off?
In terms of what we've been seeing over the past few years, so there's a lot of focus on tech. The industry is heavily dependent on tech today, both in terms of optimizing processes across the supply chain or developing novel products. You know, like when we think about alternative meats, plant-based analogs, cellular agriculture, all of these innovations are tech-enabled. We've seen over the past few years the rise of crowdfunding for consumer products, be it in terms of crowdfunding the business or even crowdfunding the inventory that these companies need in order to develop their products. There's more activity on the angel front, and we're seeing also large companies becoming more and more interested, large established companies becoming more and more interested in learning about these emerging concepts early on instead of waiting until they fully develop their businesses to collaborate with them. So there's a lot of activity on the funding side, both in terms of VCs and angel networks, crowdfunding, as well as corporate venture capital. I think the last 2 years have showed us how some of the valuations could be inflated, specifically with regards to tech. So we're seeing investors being a little bit more cautious on that front. They still have an appetite, however, because when it comes to food, it's such a tangible aspect of our life. We interact with food at least 3 times a day, and we need to find solutions to feed the population. There's no way around it. And we need to do so in an environmentally friendly way, in a way that doesn't further harm the planet. So I would say that there's a lot of appetite. It might be a little bit more challenging to raise funds today, but given the market and dynamics or conditions, but I think it's a great time to be in the food industry. Yeah,
I totally agree. Mike's still working? Everything kosher before I start ramping? Okay, I totally agree. And I'm seeing a lot of interest specifically in like the CPG space, like you mentioned too, that are more health conscious and things like that. Your alternatives, there's some really cool brands out there that are doing it for people that have allergies to things, or even, I guess I should say the attribution has become more important. And so even people that are doing like a Whole30 diet or something, they can find the foods they need at more abundance and everything. And that's exciting, and that's also helped fuel the crowdfunding space too, because now, at least with Reg CF, you can do up to $5 million a year on one line on the cap table from your customers and community, and you can keep going if you want to. But in general, so we are seeing with this time period where there's sort of like some VCs are taking sort of a step in, like a breath in for a second, and we'll probably come back out, Q1 of next year or maybe end of this year. We're seeing some brands definitely go to their community to raise capital in the interim, which is a win-win because they get the capital, but they also strengthen and engage their community and create like an army of enthusiasts. So that's interesting to hear you say that as well, because obviously on our side, like we're hyper-focused, we're constantly measuring and seeing what's happening in any given day. But we are seeing that consumers or just general populace are interested in investing in non-alternative methods of investing versus just the stock market. And maybe Elon Musk wakes up in the morning and tweets something, the stock drops 5% or something, who knows. But all right, anyway, sorry, I do want to allow others to answer this question though, because I do find it interesting, specifically in the verticals that you know so well. So Sam, why don't you let us know what's going down with venture funding in your space, any trends, and if any like companies are winners and why?
Yeah, it's been a really interesting 2 years on the climate tech side of things. So I think in 2021, it was like the largest influx of capital into the space that we've seen in, ever, and like a 200% increase from the year before. And that has slowed down a little bit in 2022, but my view is that climate tech is going to be an industry that is really resilient against some of these sort of more macroeconomic downturns, and that's because of the urgency of the problem. I think sort of the instability that we're seeing with traditional energy this year, that is underscoring the importance of building up these resilient energy systems powered by renewables and things. And then also in just the last year or two, there's been a lot of changes on both the federal and state level as far as some of the government funding that's available for companies.
Totally.
And so the recent Inflation Reduction Act that has a lot of capital available for companies that are working in this space. But also, as I mentioned before, the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center here locally, they are an incredibly important supporter of so many of the companies that are being founded here. And seeing them get a bit more funding in the last year, maybe not as much as I would like, but we're making good progress there and hope to continue to see that grow.
Yeah, ditto. I am a big fan. It's nice to see a lot of the public support go into these initiatives because, you know, it takes a village, right? Together we rise, and we need those resources. And so that is exciting to hear. And I'm just happy to hear it, to be honest. So awesome. Joyce, how about on your end with robotics and AI and the Internet of Things? How's that looking?
So our investors are a little bit different. You know, similar to clean tech and food, it takes a long time. So the traditional investor wants a quick turnaround, right? It's not going to happen with a robotics company. There are VCs that are investing solely in robotics, and they understand the long return on investment, right? But we've also seen a lot of large corporates now have venture arms, right? So GM Ventures, Lockheed Ventures, Honda Ventures, Cradle from Hyundai, the Amazon, Industrial Innovation Fund, right? $1 billion put towards robotics. And a lot of it is in the manufacturing and warehousing space, right? Technologies that are going to help onshore manufacturing. And we, again, learned this through the pandemic. We can't rely on sources outside of the United States. We have to bring this back. We don't have the workforce here to do it. So bringing in not just traditional robots, but I think collaborative robots make up about 3% of the industry now, and they're expecting that to be up to like 34% in just a couple of years. So collaborative robots are really making a push to being on the market. So these are robots that can be on an assembly line or on a line working next to a human, where they're doing the monotonous same thing, where the human is actually doing the real work and the robot is just doing a task. So as far as I'd say funding overall, a lot is coming from these larger industrial companies. Mitsubishi is a partner of ours, as well as Greentown, and they've invested in some of our companies here. So I think that there's a big push on the corporate side.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, and that makes sense. I mean, look, at the end of the day, sometimes companies get so big that it's incredibly difficult for them to be able to innovate and stay light on their feet. So being able to sort of create an offshoot where they can invest in other companies that are able to be nimble, iterate quickly, kind of a lean methodology and figure things out, even if they are within hardware and such, is important for them to remain competitive. But again, though, there also needs to be a system for them to take advantage of that. So again, that's exciting that you guys are here creating those programs where they can then partner, and everything's, really cool. For those tuning in globally here, if you're interested in working at any of these startups or applying to any of these organizations and things like that, please, I encourage you to go to their website and take a look and get involved. From a founder's perspective, if you're looking at getting involved in a startup, go, look into the industries that you really dig, maybe find like VC firms or, incubator types and accelerators that have a portfolio of companies, and look through those companies. And oftentimes either the incubator, accelerator, or portfolio, VC will have available jobs at those organizations, or, literally go to each of the organizations and start connecting with them and seeing how you can add value or potentially pull from that, because just getting your foot in the door is going to help you understand whether or not you like that industry, or you want to, dive deeper, or if you're interested in starting your own company, working at a smaller company first is going to really help you understand the dynamics of how day-to-day things run and operate. Because, we just did spend a good amount of time talking about funding, because, it's one of those things, without it, there's a lot of things you can't do, but that is just like a CEO's core job, is to get the money, hire good people, set the vision. It's really a small part of what we do. And so anyway,
about 5 minutes, so maybe one more question. There are some video Q&As as well, if
Ooh. Okay, hold up. Oh, let's go. We're gonna start right here. Boom. I love video Q&As. Let's see how this works. Was it on mute? Must have been on mute. That's okay. Moving on. Same. Looks like they're keeping their mute buttons on. Anybody in the audience, if you guys are going to jump and do some video Q&A, please make sure to take yourself off of mute. You will not interrupt our conversation because the technology will automatically route you to the video in which you are recording. I'm going to ask a quick question though to keep this going, because I have all three of you guys here, right? From food to clean tech and climate tech and robotics. So, question that involves all of you guys. You ready for this? Robot chefs serving sustainable foods at fast food kiosks. Is it going to take off? I've seen some of them at airports making burgers and things, right? What do you guys think? Is it going to be a thing? Are people going to trust getting their burgers and their foods and everything else from robots? Is that a thing? Go ahead, Sam. I see you nodding your head like enthusiastically.
It's a yes. It's a clear yes. Absolutely.
Actually, the government just invested in was it Dex AI, who was actually going to serve in one of the mess decks or mess tents or something. So that was another source. I should have brought that up with robotics and onshoring of manufacturing, is that the government has really stepped up, and all the services now have their own innovation type programs where they're investing in startups. The nice thing about that is they're non-dilutive, right? The government doesn't want your IP; they just want your product. And so that's another great way and another resource. And we have some great programs in the state that will actually help you with a follow-on to an SBIR through Mass Ventures. So there's some good funding there.
And I would echo Sam and Joyce. The answer is obviously yes. I think we're at an inflection point. A lot is going to change in the food industry, and the future of food is happening today, right here in Boston. The next generations, I mean, we are transforming the food industry for the next generations. We are making the food industry more sustainable, more environmentally friendly, and that definitely entails including or integrating robotics, all types of technologies in order to increase efficiency, to increase safety, and to make sure that the industry is resilient, because the future might not look very bright with climate change and everything that's happening, but there are lots of opportunities to make it look bright. So, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I'll click ahead. I like that. So basically what you're saying is the next time that I see a solar-powered Impossible Burger kiosk stand that uses robots to make my food, that I should be the first in line. I'm all about it. Okay, rock and roll. Well, we are nearing here at the top of the hour. I'm sorry that I couldn't get to everybody's Q&A, but again, if you guys do have questions that are further outside of this panel discussion, please do. I encourage you to reach out to everybody here, both individually and through their organizations, myself included, and just if there's anything, I can do to support you guys, or